New York, and on the new Hot 97 app. Ebro in the morning on Hot 97.
It's Ebro in the morning. The beautiful Laura Styles. Rosenberg's here. Wrestling tee. Well
back.
done,
I'm
sir.
back.
What is this hat?
It's a Major League Baseball hat. Big playoff day today.
Big playoff.
So.
Big playoffs. And give it up for the ladies working on hashtag mass bailout one time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Give it up. A big day today. Introduce yourselves.
Good morning. My name is Iffy Ike, and I'm with the Mass Bailout team. Thank you all for having us.
All right.
I'm Monifa Bandele. I'm also with the Mass Bailout, but I'm also with Moms Rising.
I'm Ashley Sawyer. I'm also with the Mass Bailout. I'm an attorney, and I'm policy director at Girls for Gender Equity.
So this goes into our continual conversation we're attempting to have over the last few years about prison reform, the cash bail racket, and everything going on nationally. Shout out to everybody that's working on the front lines. You women are working diligently today to actually bail women and young kids, teenagers, out of Rikers.
That's right.
And if you could talk about why Rikers, why today, and how is it being funded, how is it happening?
So one of the things that people don't know about Rikers, we use the term jail and prison all the time, and there's a difference, right? Jail is a place that holds people that are basically waiting to go to trial. And right now, Rikers is notorious for being an extension of discriminatory practices, ranging from police brutality, profiling. So if you get stopped and frisked and you don't have anybody around you to justify or help you with your situation, you may end up at Rikers. And what we're trying to elevate with Mass Bailout is that people right now are their bodies are basically held as ransom because they don't have the money to pay for what the DA and the judge has determined is the amount that would take for you to be free. If you can't pay that, then your body is basically there as hostage. And so right now we are trying to work as an extension of other bailouts that have happened with many of our comrades and allies, Mama's Bailout, Papa's Bailout, National Bailout. And we are working to ensure that up to 500 women and children are not being held hostage.
And this is
Rikers.
just at Rikers.
Right now, we are starting just as Rikers.
500 people that we're going to pay
That is the
to
goal.
bail out. That's the goal.
right. That is
And
the
how
goal.
can people watching this participate?
So first of all, if you haven't done it, that means all of y'all in here, you too, Ebro, Rosenberg, all of y'all, please follow at Mass Bailout. That is our official Twitter handle. It's also our Instagram handle. We're also on Facebook. Please follow for a couple reasons. First of all, people can donate. There will also be volunteer opportunities. We'll also have community activities from care kits to different ways people can be involved when people are coming home. But we also need to make sure people keep eyes on what's going on right now. Just to be very clear, there are multiple systems that are not happy with this bailout. We know that there's obstruction that's currently potential from various actors of the legal community. And even though these individuals have the right to have anybody bail them out, we know that people are trying to stop this
How
right
would
now.
someone who's working against this be incentivized to want to keep these people incarcerated?
Well, go ahead. No, I was
Or
going to say
in
a lot
jail
of
waiting for an extended period of time? Why would that be of someone's interest? If a bail is set,
absolutely.
someone comes along and pays it, why would you be upset with that?
Because a lot of times bail and jail, incarceration are used as an incentive to get people to make a plea, to testify against others. So people are building their case, not just around the facts of the case, but also around the pressure that they could put on somebody and someone's livelihood to go along with the story that they want to tell, right?
So
if
the more
have,
I can keep you, the more I can coerce and
coerce you to either plea yourself, say something against someone else, it disrupts the justice system, right? Because instead of trying to make a decision on what you're going to do based on truth and justice, you're thinking about your kids. You're thinking about who's going to get them from school. Am I going to lose my housing? Am I going to lose my job? And so those things become what matters and not necessarily the case. So there's people who just want to make their case. They want to make their quotas, right? We know police have quotas, prosecutors, DAs have quotas, right? They want to win. And they're using people's bodies and their lives as a tool to coerce. So that's what Ife is talking about. Some people don't want there not to be bail because it helps them in making their cases easy and telling the narratives they want to tell.
That's pretty much it. It's super coercive. So I've had clients or young people who made decisions entirely based on like, I need to go back. I'm losing school. I had a scholarship. I had an opportunity. I'm losing all of those opportunities the longer I'm sitting here. So if you're offering me something, even if it means I have to take a plea to something that I don't feel like is fair or accurate, I'm going to accept it for the only reasons I can get home, see my family, or be safe. We understand the risk of what happens in Rikers. I've seen the housing areas. I've seen what it's like for young people and women there. It's not a place that you want to be, and you're fearful all the time. So you will be coerced and accept whatever's being offered to you just to be home and just to be safe.
And to be clear, this is impacting poor people, right?
Oh, for sure. There's
If you
people
have the
going
cash,
through it.
there's
so
people
wanted
walking
you
around
to
everywhere
elaborate
waiting
on
for
that,
trial.
Because
Yeah.
even with the Khalif Browder story, right, a lot of people are still in shock when they're like, oh, wait, but bail was just $900 or $600 or $1,000. That's affordable to someone like me and you, right? But somebody who's poor, who's living check to check, has kids and can't afford
Paying
that.
rent.
$600
Doesn't have
might
things to
might
put
as
up
well
for
be
collateral.
$6,000.
Right,
Might as well be
right.
$6 million.
And
'cause
how
he
many
was
times
poor.
have you seen people just stay in jail for months? And we're talking because people think that it's just like a week or two. No. This is like months.
Years, Laura. Yeah, Khalif Browder was in there for years.
He's in there for 3 years, and he's not the only one. We know of his story because activists pushed it out because people like you guys talked about his story. But there's hundreds of Khalif Browders, and that's why we're bailing these people out this week because they should be home with their families, but also to really disrupt that whole system.
The system works on so many levels too, because if the people have money, it's guaranteed money to get, right? Because if one of us ends up
Now you're
in
talking
jail,
about the racket of bail.
the racket.
Right,
so
right,
if
right.
I got picked up on something and they were like, it's $3,500, I would be like, oh, honey, we need come down here with $3,500.
Get
gotta
me
pay-
out.
And I would pay it and never think twice about it and say, best money I ever spent in my life. I got out of there, right? But if you don't have, they get to use it double way, because then if people don't have the money, now you get to use them the way you said to help tell
Could
the
use them
stories
for
they want to
anything.
tell.
And
Weren't
you
you
would
here
get-
on this day? Anything.
You would get your money back because you paid cash bail. So now when you show up for all your court dates, you're going to get all of your money back. But for the people who can't afford to come up with the cash, they go through a bondsman. A bondsman taking a percentage off. They're taking
So
a
that's
fee
really
off.
the
That's
racket.
the real
That's
racket.
the real racket.
Got it.
Wow.
The
So if
bail
you have the
bonds.
money, you get it back anyway. And if
Yes.
you don't have the money, you don't get it
You're
back. It's
paying
exactly
more.
backwards.
You end up
Yes.
paying more because it's like a loan, like a bad
It's
loan.
like a bad credit card or a
How-
bad loan. Wow.
How is your organization funded? Where do you guys get the money for this?
So this organization is managed by the Robert F. Kennedy Human Rights Group. Several different donors have been working with Kerry Kennedy and others to raise this money, and we are still raising money to ensure that we can get as many people out. We say 500, but you know, if it's 501, then it's going to be 501. Basically, as long as the funds are there, and as Monifa was explaining and as Ashley was explaining, it's a loan, right? So we are also doing this and hoping to have a revolving door of people donating so we can get as many people out, right? And so what people will see when they go to massbailout.com is a donate stamp there. They can push it. They can donate however much they want, and no amount is too small. We know that family members don't always have the funds. As you can imagine, the collateral consequence of this is that you also have family at home feeling like they're not able to protect you, to save you. This happened with Khalif Browder. This happened with Sandra Bland. I mean, there are people that have been unfortunately jailed, and we think that they're just sitting around, which is why we don't use the term people are sitting at jail. They're not just sitting, right? We know people have been, there's, first of all, for women, over 80% of sexual violence that happens inside of jails nationwide, it happens to women. We're only 13% of the population. So that is already skewed right there, right? What happens to minors is also underreported. We've seen videos of fights. We've seen people being hogtied. I mean, this is what's happening. This is why people want to get them home. So whether it's $5, whether it's $10, this is also a way for community to be like, maybe I didn't have the $900, but I can do something for this because I
Right.
know a family member that has gone through this,
I
right?
want to say that 80% of the women that are incarcerated are mothers, right? So if you're a single mom, your children are possibly like funneled into the foster care system. If you're pregnant, you're not able to get access to the maternal health you need. So there's many, 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 many layers to how dangerous this cash bail system is.
I think also, to help people kind of wrap their brain around this in layman's terms, oftentimes broken windows policing, as you guys pointed out, stop and frisk, not having a driver's license,
Yep.
plates, maybe you needed to turn your plates in and you didn't have insurance and you got a ticket and you had a warrant out for your arrest. There's a myriad
identity.
Mistaken identity, right?
Right.
We look alike.
I think it's important for people to understand how minor some infractions can be, especially in a city like New York, where you get put in to processing or get tied to something that you didn't have nothing to do with, right? Or live in a neighborhood where there's all type of activity happening and you just happen to live there.
Right.
Or know somebody or live next to someone and your door got kicked in and they snatched you up or have been harassing you or whatever. I think people got to understand that this isn't like, oh, all of these people are criminals. No, these are people who are waiting and cannot afford to protect themselves.
That's
and
right.
cannot afford to access the tools so that they can be treated like everyone else.
That's right. And we also know, let's not take away from the historical context of what jail and prison does to stain, especially Black and brown communities.
Oh, for sure.
Right.
The longer you stay there, the more likely people are going to see you as guilty. The more likely people are going to see you that you've done it. And in the state of New York, like many states, you can go, if say something does happen, say I came to your home and something transpired, something happened, depending on whether your home is in a certain area or maybe your home happens to be a church and I didn't know it was
You're
a
my
church.
cousin. You
I've
just
now-
committed a crime and came to my crib. They kicking the door in, and everybody in there has got a problem.
Everybody's got a problem.
But you're just my family member, and I happen to open the door
Exactly.
for my family member.
Exactly.
There's so many layers.
There's so many
And when
layers.
you're in, losing your job, losing your housing.
That's right.
It's a spiral. So you're poor, but you get poorer because of the cash
Right.
bail.
You get penalized for being poor
Right.
in our society, which is another conversation that we continue to have. But I appreciate you, ladies, and
Thank you so much.
anybody that's
Appreciate you.
associated with mass bailout in this movement to get this hashtag trending and get people donating on behalf of people who cannot pay their bail.
And one more time, where could people go if they want to just donate?
So please go to massbailout.com. Also follow at massbailout on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. And please use the hashtag massbailout. Monifa was part of the first bailout that happened this morning in Brooklyn. So
How
it
much
has
was that one this
officially-
morning, by the way? Congratulations.
We are not disclosing.
Oh, you're not
Okay.
That's the right thing. That's the right thing.
Yeah, we can't
right.
because the pool is so small it can identify people based
Got
on
it.
amounts
So
or
if you didn't-
descriptions
Right,
of them.
right,
So we
right.
want to make sure people out, people safe. But we did do one this morning at Moms Rising. We work a lot with Girls for Gender Equality. The focus right now is on women and children, but really this is a problem that hurts everybody. And so we're just hoping to raise awareness so that no one has to face this.
And this is the beginning, right, of this
is the
movement.
beginning.
This is the first, just so everyone understands, we're just starting this movement of actually making donations and contributing to organizations that are going to help people get bailed out when they can't afford it.
And
This
we
was
can't
actually started before now, though, with Black Mamas Bailout.
Right.
So
Right.
Black
So it's a-
women, for the last 2 years, have started this, and it has just grown into being
That's
like
right.
what you see here today with the mass
Even over
bailout.
this weekend with the marches that have been happening, not just for marching for Black women, but for survivors, right? Based off of the craziness that went on last week. It's been amazing to see women, trans women, white men, Black men, like people are recognizing that it's not just about saving us, but if you protect us, then our communities thrive, right? So this is also about ensuring that we get stronger holistically, but that we also allow for Black women and women to lead in these efforts. But again, to your point, yes, our goal is to reach 400 to 500 women and children, but we need people to follow this hashtag because we also know that there are systems right now, as we're speaking, that are working to shut this down.
And I want to make
So
sure
we
people
need
know
to-
it's not just today.
It's not just today.
Yeah, this is not just a one day.
No. Today's just
No,
one
no,
day.
no.
It's not a grand opening, grand
It is the
closing.
launch.
This isn't
This is the launch. Right.
This is some Labor Day sale.
Right.
You know what I mean? This is a movement. a
Unfortunately,
sustained
there will
movement
continue
over-
to be people who need to be bailed
Yes.
out. Yes.
But if we can reduce it significantly, then we know that electeds have said we're going to wait, 10 years, 12 years, whatever, to shut it down. But if we can really show that it can be done in a month, right? That we can bring out 500 women and children, then why are we taking 10 years, 20 years to shut down
Do you know
Rikers?
what's the overall number of women and children that are there at Rikers? Do we know?
And children, you mean under 18, right?
Under 18.
But not like 10 years old.
What's the
No.
youngest?
No.
What's
It's
the youngest?
17 and 18.
Okay,
It
17,
was
18.
16, 17,
Today.
and 18, and now it's 17.
As of
As of
today,
today.
today is the day that 16-year-olds are supposed to be moved off of Rikers. But there's still a whole issue with that. So the same Rikers guards are going to the juvenile facilities because the systems couldn't figure out how to do this. So
because the union stood in the way because they wanted those jobs and to still get those money. So they took the same COs that have been abusing people at Rikers and moved them over to abuse teenagers instead of actually sending people over there who have an interest in rehabilitating and actually turning.
You said it.
So the kids who think they're finally getting to escape these people now show up, and the same people are still there.
Exactly, but we're all hip to the game, right? And so that's why we're fighting, everything, raise the age, making sure that we don't just close Rikers, but they don't create these alternatives to Rikers, which are basically little mini Rikers all over the city. So no one's fooled.
Oh, they
by
gonna do that.
Well, we're gonna fight it.
They gonna do that. They gonna put there's gonna be a little Queens Rikers, a little Brooklyn one, a little Staten one, a Bronx one, a Manhattan one. They're gonna sparse all this up.
That's
and
their
break it all
goal,
up.
just like it's their goal to stop us this week from this mass bailout, but they're not going to. And so we are going to be diligent in making sure that it's not the physical Rikers that we want to close, right? It's this mass detention of poor people that we want to stop. So that's really the basis of it. We call it closed Rikers, but that's symbolic, right?
Right.
Rikers could be anywhere.
That's right.
Yeah.
And Rikers could be open and not be a nightmare, right? Could it exist in a world where this wasn't the way it's meant to be set
Well,
up?
because it's a jail. Like if he said, do you really need pretrial detention? Maybe for a very small amount of cases,
So
but
because
it's
not
based
the
on
level.
flight risk, right?
Yeah.
And it couldn't be a prison. It's not meant to be. It's not built to be a prison.
Well, I think the thing to make clear is that Rikers is a detention facility. So the people there, by and large, have not been found guilty of any crime. So,
But if they were to
But he's
switch
saying,
it,
could you use it
yes,
as a
exactly.
prison?
Is it literally close Rikers, or could you repurpose it and be like, we no longer hold people
There's
there?
discussions to do other things with the land. You want to talk about
Yeah, well, what I was going to say was that, and this is what's so great about mass bailout, it opens the door to all the different intersections of discrimination so my thing about prison is that I would still question the system of prison, the composition of prisons. How do people get into prisons? How do these charges get brought up? Why are people pleading? Why are people, so even the concept of prisons, I would question that if you were to repurpose Rikers, but you don't repurpose personnel, you don't repurpose,
It's all the same.
you don't do a lobotomy on
you
the
don't change
system,
the
then
philosophy of prison
then it's
in
the
this country.
same.
There's
There's
more
culture.
things we need in New York City than more prisons.
Right.
We need housing. I don't know if people have been walking the streets, riding the trains lately. Like, there's a desperate need for affordable housing. There's a desperate need for
course.
more
There's been
education.
like a 500,000.
There's so many
Yes.
other things
After
that
school
make
programs.
cities
500,000,
safe.
500,000 affordable housing units in New York City in the last 10 years. 500,000.
And we
And you
know
can
that
see it.
So that
housing
didn't start
housing
with de Blasio.
security, no, and housing security
million?
is.
$1 million since 2004.
A million
Wow.
since
Oh
2004.
my goodness.
My bad.
Last week, yeah.
And housing security is one of the determining factors as to whether women and children are going to end up in jail anyway, right? So we know if we can fix this housing situation, I'm on the board of Women's Prison Association, the issue we focus on the most is housing. You fix housing, you're not going to have vulnerable communities outside being susceptible to
all the elements,
to all the
that can make
elements
that.
of law enforcement, right? So to your point, and then we talk about school to prison and sex to prison pipelines, then what happens in schools, it's not just more schools. You got to get teachers that care about your babies. You got to get people that love your kids. We talk about kids get suspended as if kids walk into a room called suspended. They don't just get suspended.
Right.
Teachers suspend kids. So we have to talk about who is actually taking care of these young people. And if they're the ones that are directing them, right now in New York City, that is the number one route to Rikers is what happens in your school.
I mean, and you can't forget even stories like the reason Trayvon Martin's dead is because he was suspended from school over something that he shouldn't have been suspended for. They've kicked
was
him out of
over
school
at
for
his
2
dad's
weeks.
house, yeah.
Goes away, ends up. So I mean, I know that's
So
one
what
example.
what
but
makes
still.
communities safe? Housing, employment, safe schools. So when we talk about what should be there instead of Rikers, it's not another prison. It's trying to figure out a way to make the city safe for everyone, so that poor people aren't in cages, whether it's jails or prisons.
And for the and I would assume that if you weren't holding people for bail all the time, if that system wasn't in place, my guess is you wouldn't need a Rikers. There's enough room in these small jails that already exist because every borough has a place where they can hold you if they need to hold you.
But they're building.
Yes.
Their plan now is to build additional units in the.
Yeah, because there was
got
all
a
this
lot.
talk about with de Blasio trying to close Rikers Island, but then I was like, where are people going to go?
Because
they're
build new spots.
yeah.
So I got a question.
Unless you change the.
So drug policy is changing, marijuana arrests,
Well,
all of
these
these
people
things.
shouldn't be getting
all
held.
these, there's a whole chunk of people who don't need to be in jail.
Right.
But
And they're still getting arrested. So we have to fight that. So while this is just one layer, I mean, think of it as like multi layer. There's the mass bailout. We're fighting for reform in drug policy. We're fighting for police reform. All those things together are to shrink the numbers. So when you say where are the people going to go, our goal is that there's less people that need to go anywhere.
There you go. Okay.
How's Kanye's 13th Amendment talk helping you guys on your mass bailout?
Don't
day?
do
You
that.
guys- What about the
We
MAGA
said it called
hat?
Dear Lord.
Do you feel like the MAGA hat?
Hey, bro, I thought we
If
were
you what? Does the
we
MAGA
can make the
hat?
whole, we can make the whole conversation without being about Kanye.
No, I just think it's important that people.
Trauma.
I mean,
Trigger alert. Trigger alert.
You're not helping.
I was so happy. I was like, I think we can get through it and not even talk about Kanye.
Well, I figured that people who were thinking that the MAGA hat represented bringing America whole again,
Right.
And Kanye and Kim working on prison reform with Trump.
What a
I mean,
hero.
I'm
You guys
sure.
wanna give it up for them?
I mean,
What a
look,
job
these
to
people
do.
are on the front lines. Are you guys aligned with Kanye West and Kim Kardashian?
There's your answer.
I guess it's
Feels like no.
well,
We are looking at what's happening on the Supreme Court level, right? Everything it goes all the way up to the top,
Department
right?
of Justice. I mean, to know that the Department of Justice under Obama, Forever 44, and Eric Holder 2020, as I like to call him, to know that when they were running the Department of Justice, they called cash bail unconstitutional because of the way it attacks the poor. So if we want to talk about the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment, if we want to talk about 8th Amendment and cruel and unusual punishment, they were very clear that the way our jail system is set up, that it is attacking the poor. And the reason why that's important is they broaden it enough that it's not just black and brown communities. We know that right now, whether in your West Virginia and the Appalachia, like it's gotten to the point that our jails, to your earlier question, our jails are operating as prisons, and that's the problem. They are treating people as if they're guilty when they haven't even been before a trier of fact, right?
and that's more economic. It's once again
It's intertwined.
Right.
Right. It is connected. What I think a lot of white people are recognizing is that unless you are rich and white, then you have always really been been at the
You may be less
susceptible.
likely to get arrested for no reason.
You will
but
be
once
less
you're
likely.
arrested, you're still equally fucked.
You're still poor. I mean, if you
Maybe
can't
not
pay,
You can't pay. Maybe not
Not-
equally. But from a financial standpoint, if you can't pay, you can't pay. So they can hide better because they're white. But once they're there, they're going to realize, well, I don't have the money either to.
Now, again, these things don't operate in just a silo. So the likelihood that even if you can't pay, that you have a family member that either can pay and or can keep a job and or can have things stable and secure is very different depending on
Your race.
your race, and who you are.
You don't
and
have
where
to
you
mince
are,
words
right?
with Rosenberg. He knows he's privileged.
fine.
white.
Oh no, I'm not mentioning.
I'm still focused on Appalachia though, because I would imagine in that spot they're pretty bad. Who are they called? I mean, I don't want to judge. What do I know?
They might got a cousin.
Maybe they
somewhere
have a
with some
cousin
bread.
somewhere.
They white. They got some bread.
Isn't it
somewhere.
crazy when we talk about poor white people? We always focus on literally the same place. Well, Appalachia,
West Virginia.
That's the one
West
place
Virginia.
because everywhere else this problem is so. I mean, there are white people affected by it everywhere, but it's still so disproportionately
It's proportionally
an
black and
issue
brown.
of black and brown people, which is
Yeah, and
terrible.
even in those areas, black people are
It's not like
overrepresented.
they're good though.
Overrepresented. Yeah, we found with stop and frisk. They said, "Oh, it's the neighborhoods." It's like, no, but when you go to white neighborhoods, black people are more likely to
Are
be
still
stopped
more
and frisked.
likely.
So it's not the neighborhood;
They find
it's
it.
the
It's race.
It's the bodies that we're walking
Right.
in. And so, even in the court, when they set bail, when they set the charges, all of that, your race impacts all that.
But let's make America great again, right, guys?
Yo,
It was never great.
It was whole. We're gonna make it whole.
Whole again.
look, let's just take it 1 week at a time. Let's mass bail out 500 people. Stop Kavanaugh from being confirmed,
So let's
and then we'll
already
see what we're
going
gonna do
on. We
next
don't
week.
have time to get to that. There's already a lot.
Let's imagine America. We're not in America. Let's imagine America. Let's imagine what freedom is. Let's imagine what liberation is. Nobody here is liberated. Rich folks ain't liberated, right? They're slaves to their own system, right? Nobody here is liberated. So part of this is like, if we can envision when we started this out and we said we're gonna work on 400 to 500 people, one elder was there, like he was like, that sounds like freedom to me, and we listened to that because the concept of 14, 15 people is still a miracle to get 14, 15 people on a
Obama
ballot.
got how many people out of jail? Did he go and visit? How many? What was the number?
from the mandatory minimum.
From the mandatory minimum.
I thought you meant he paid for people.
No, he didn't.
no,
I was like,
no,
I
no.
didn't hear you say
No,
that.
but
No.
the mandatory minimum. What was it?
He got a handful of people out on mandatory minimums, but definitely not enough. And he was trying to change the law so that they would get out before he got out of office, and that did not happen. That was held up in Congress, like many things.
I'm sure Donald Trump will want to keep those things going.
Trump
sure.
and Kim Kardashian gonna get it done, kid.
The dream team for
Yo.
freedom.
What is their goal?
That's the part that I'll tell you the truth. I had a moment yesterday with my wife. We were walking Riverside Park, and I said, one thing I'm worried about is why am I not smart enough to figure out what they're doing? I don't get it. Like, I know the obvious thing would be the Kardashian, Kanye, Trump alliance
giving
is
them too
about
much
getting
credit.
it's about getting people of color to accept
It's
Donald
marketing,
Trump.
bro. It's marketing.
Right.
That's it.
But
just
so
marketing.
it's trying. It's just that's it.
It's just to keep their names hot. Like I've been saying, how many weeks
That's
have I
not
been
it, but there's
saying?
so many
No,
ways to
listen.
keep their name
It is
hot.
cool to have this conversation now. It's cool. So you're going to see people who have products to sell.
But
and
Kylie's hot, and all she has is her makeup. Why does that have to be?
No, but Kim already did that. She's looking for the next thing.
But it's also her husband is a train wreck right now, so she's trying to do some good deeds.
You know, if they had went all the way the other way and gone like crazed anti-Trump, they'd still be super hot. There's a lot of half the country or
but
more.
you wouldn't get tax breaks,
Yeah.
and you wouldn't get the other. You wouldn't get the other parts. You wouldn't
See
get
my
the tax
thing,
breaks.
though? I don't
and these
understand it
things.
myself.
I mean, listen, if Kim Kardashian is listening, you can go to massbailout.com
There you
and
go.
you can send all your influencers to put their money out there and get people out. I do believe that people that have these type of platforms can be of use. I do not know if she is the strategery that we need right now to free our people. I also think that there's something about turning down your plate and letting other people that have been leading be at the forefront. So it's amazing to me that she's taking up a lot of space where people that have literally given their lives in everything from
And why is she not platforming other
Ferguson
people?
and Baltimore, people, Monifa has been working, Mamadou, like she's not even raising the people that we know right here in New York City or even in California that have been impacted by the criminal justice
She's
system.
taking it all.
She's
Like, well,
taking
I'm
this
doing this.
space and doesn't even know what she's talking about. But what I do know is that she does have a lot of makeup. So when we are asking for in-kind donations, please send those makeups over.
There you go.
And she does have a platform, and we do respect her for that. I can't speak about Kanye. I don't even.
And we're happy for the sister Alice that she got out of prison.
Right.
Absolutely.
Is it weird that I felt a way the second Alice got out, and it was like a nice moment, and then when the first thing she said when she grabbed the mic was "God bless Donald Trump"? My first thought was like, oh, so this was all
Who said that?
Alice Johnson. First words out of her mouth. God bless Donald Trump. Thank you,
It's
Donald
marketing,
Trump.
guys.
So that's what I was trying to
Yeah.
understand, like
All
how
I'm
the whole
saying
thing
is
came
that
together.
Prison is trauma. Okay,
There you go.
I don't know Sister Alice. I don't know what she's faced. You can only imagine if you've been in and you get out.
And someone
you might
frees you.
think anybody.
No, you're not wrong.
Right?
No, she wasn't.
She's-
That's
Yeah.
a very difficult place to
She
be,
wasn't.
though.
I'm not saying she was in on the plan. It's a very easy way to get someone to
No.
feel that way. Because if someone, as we all said, everything we've ever said about Donald Trump, which has never been positive, if he directly came into your life and made a positive impact and you've never had anything good, there's a good chance you'd be like, oh, I love this guy. I don't know about the other stuff he says. I know what he did for me.
Look, I'm
And that's the
speaking on
plan.
behalf of moms, right? And Moms Rising. Women will do anything to see their children. Right?
And this was a grandmother.
And that's why they're used a lot in these plea deals, right? You go home now and pick up your kids from daycare,
Don't you want to do that? Right.
or you can lose them to foster care. So Alice, her children, her grandchildren.
Of course.
What you may say, God bless whoever the
do
worst
whatever it
person
takes
on
to get
earth,
there,
right?
yes.
To get their children. So we have to put that in that context. We're happy that she's home. We're happy that the women we're going to bail out will be home, but we're not using it to say, hey, follow Iffy, Ashley, and Monifa.
Right. Exactly.
Right? We're doing it to say dismantle mass incarceration.
There you go.
I've not heard the Kardashians say that yet.
It's a good point.
Yeah.
It's a good spot.
Well, hashtag mass bailout.
At
Follow
mass
it
bailout.
At mass bailout. Massbailout.com.
Massbailout.com. And really quickly, Ashley, can you just also really quickly talk about the vulnerability of LGBTQI community? Because we did not touch on that.
Certainly. So at Girls for Gender Equity, we talk a lot about the way that the system affects not just straight people, not just cisgender people, but transgender folks. A lot of the girls and trans and gender nonconforming folks at Rikers are there experiencing an especially traumatic experience, as you can imagine. So I use the phrase TG GNC for transgender nonconforming folks, they are disproportionately sexually assaulted at Rikers and at jails and prisons across the country. They're extremely, extremely vulnerable. And so we're thinking about also, when we say women and children, we're also including cisgender women, transgender women, folks who don't identify along the binary. And we want to make sure that they are able to fight their cases from the outside. They are able to have a fair day in court, and also protect them in whatever ways we can from these systems that are particularly harsh to folks who don't identify as a straight cisgender human being.
That's a very good point.
And we're prioritizing pregnant women.
Ashley, right?
Ashley.
Got it right. Mass bailouts, the movement. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you for all
Thank
the
you.
work that you do.
Hopefully, you can keep us updated.
Oh no, we would like to come on a weekly basis just to give you guys like
You
a
guys
freedom
you
report.
can do daily.
Freedom report. Give you a freedom report. Let you know what's going on.
We'll check in.
We'll get, quick on boom. Freedom report. We have music for that?
Yes.
We go over the freedom report.
Can we get a mixtape? Can we get a freedom mixtape? Right. It starts with Beyonce's freedom.
There you go. Let's do it like that.
And then go to Kendrick. We got to go to Kendrick.
Yeah.
DNA.
Make a mixtape
We got to
for
get a
it.
mixtape.
The mass bailout mixtape.
Ooh.
Dropping.